in the house. Alex Dunlap, Anwar Richardson, the old-fashioned show. Alex had to miss yesterday because he was there for career day. Alex, I've been dying to know, how did it go?
It was it was something. I got dragged into a little bit more than I thought I was going to have to, because I had to go through. It was like, dude, these sessions you have to talk for these people, like 25, 30 minutes per class.
Oh, wow.
And they cycle around. So for the third graders, I had to do 5 classes. For the I didn't realize this. For the kindergartners, I had to do 4 classes. And so with the kindergartners, they made it a little bit quicker because you know how they have attention spans, fleas. So
yes.
And they don't. But yeah, man, it was definitely a trip. And I think you and I are both getting on trips this weekend. You're heading to San Antonio with the son to go do his soccer star stuff. I'm gonna try and go hunting. I'm gonna see what I can do. But certainly, we know for all the moms out there, this will be our last time that we can say to you guys how much we appreciate y'all and everything that you do to keep our families running and together. Of course, our own moms. I'm sure Anwar feels the same way. But thanks to all the moms out there. We hope you guys have a really, really awesome Mother's Day coming up. So Anwar, today what we'll talk about is needs in the portal, but I feel like there's a couple things that. So, have you heard of this dude Josh Pate that has the Late Kick show?
Yes, he's Pate's for what was he 24/7? Is that who he's
I think so. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I think so.
Very popular.
I don't watch him much. I did last night though, because he had like Bianco gives this dude a 45-minute one-on-one with Sark, of course. But there were some things to take away from that I thought we could talk about that could lead into some of the things that we're going to be discussing today. As far as hold on, man, I got some Pink Floyd playing here. What's going on, Anwar?
Nice. All right. Yeah.
How did that turn on?
I don't know, but let's not get a copyright strike on that one. Turn that thing off. Oh, okay, yeah. Host of the Late Kick show on CBS and CBS Sports HQ. Okay, got it. I thought he was with 24/7 at one point, but maybe I'm tripping.
All right.
Mute yourself? Okay.
Sorry about that. I couldn't find where I pressed a button to turn on Apple Music somehow, and I didn't know how to get back to it. All right, but anyway, so some things that'll get us back on track here. He talked about depth. He talked about a lot of stuff, and it was the depth thing that got me interested, because you and I are going to rank our top 5 positions left when we have now after the commitment of Jermayne Lole yesterday. I haven't talked to you about Lole, so I'd like to hear what you have to say about that situation or whatever. But as we look at depth across these, it's starting to get hard to identify exactly where the priority should be for the 2 remaining scholarships to get up to 85. So what we're going to do is we'll go through and rank them in order, 5 down to 1. So the 5 most important, 5 down to 1. But as we do that, there's a sort of a question here. Before I get to that question that leads us into it, just wanted to ask you your thoughts on a couple of things. He did say, Pate was asking Sark, like, whenever you look at your roster, there's always going to be spots where you kind of have those red circles where you're a little bit worried about spots on the, be it offense, be it defense, but maybe where you could be going in and there could be issues, be they depth issues, be they talent issues and stuff like that. It's part of being a head coach. It's part of managing a roster, right? And Sark agreed with that. And he said on defense, the biggest issue to replace was certainly just defensive line. That's what he said. He did say, though, and I thought that this coach kind of gave us a little bit of insight into his way of thinking, was like, man, but when you think about Tavondre and you think about Byron Murphy, for one, he reminded me, and I'm not sure if this is true. I didn't have time to go back and look because I watched it late at night. But he said, you got to remember, those guys didn't start a game until last season. Which to me, I'm not sure that's right. I'll have to go back and look.
Look at the Murphy thing first.
I whenever I heard that, I'm like, that doesn't seem right. But admittedly, I didn't go back and look through the deep dig stuff. I probably should have before we came on. But basically, what he did say was that you don't have to replace those guys with just 2 players, right? And it kind of goes to what we were talking about on the modcast yesterday, about how, when you bring in Jermayne Lole and all of a sudden you look around and you have this pile of senior dudes like Vernon Broughton, Alfred Collins, Savea, Bill Norton, now Jermayne Lole. That's a group of 5 seniors, and you mix in the guys like Alex January, Bledsoe. We still know we're going to get out of Aaron Bryant or Sadir Mitchell, but out of those dudes, you should be able to maybe give these guys, if there's not one that you want to get up to 50% of snaps, like Tavondre Sweat or like Byron Murphy, right?
Yeah, by the way, Sweat started in 9 games in 2022.
Okay, so I thought it sounded weird.
He played in 13 and started in 9 games in 2022 before the 2023 season. Byron Murphy is the only technicality because Byron Murphy started once in 2022 before the 2023 season. So that one you can say like, okay, sue me, I'm only 1 game off. But Sweat did started 9 games in 2022.
Do you think that you can replace those 2 guys with this kind of amalgamation of kind of experienced, kind of decent upside or decent floor but pretty low upside types?
I don't know, Alex. For me, Moro and Jomo and Keandre Coburn, I felt like didn't set us a bar that was so high that I felt like, oh man, how do you replace those guys? Like when Kelvin Banks graduates, right, or goes into the draft, we're gonna say to yourself, man, who the hell are you gonna put at left tackle? Like that's a top 10 pick. I was like, yeah, okay, you can probably find a way to upgrade those guys. But when you start talking about, and you have the numbers on Tavondre and Byron Murphy as far as their productivity are concerned, to say that you can replace a first round guy and a second round guy with guys who maybe haven't shown it, I get it, right? It happened once before, it can happen again. It happened when we said to ourselves, well, how you place Bijan and Roshan and Jonathan Brooks shows up, right? I get that thought process. Yeah. Like, hey, we've said this before. And there's been like maybe I was at a point where Sark does have the machine going. Maybe this is Alabama and Georgia where you lose a bunch of guys and you have some guys that have question marks. But I know it's hard to really duplicate that, especially in the interior. Those guys would have had to make some really big jumps.
They do. They're getting, and as I was trying to just think about before we got on the show, because we talked about the show topic last night. I didn't have much to think about last night. So as usual, I'm just scrambling before the show to try and put together my list. And I was looking at it and I was like, well, defensive line. I mean, at least they kind of got some numbers now. Yeah, it's such a different group this year. It's gonna be hard to handicap.
I got the scholarship board for you, and you can.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Yes, I mean, you look at that deal. I mean, they kind of now are back to having the numbers. Especially, you forget that Melvin Hills is coming in that was not available in the spring. Now he only weighs 270 pounds. I think he might be one of these dudes who could, need a year or so to develop. But it'll just be that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're 10 of them. I mean that's depth.
Yeah.
I mean, that's depth if nothing else. And then but then the weirdest thing to me on was he circled around and he was still on that. I figured that was going to be the answer to the question. But then he says, and on offense, we need to get more continuity. Because we need our continuity to be at an all-time high from these wide receivers. He says that we need their precision to be, it's just very, very, very critical, right, to us. And he said that you saw Washington last year when they would hit those big plays against Texas. Mm-hmm. And he says that he wants that level of clinical precision with his wide receivers. It gave, look, Onwar, I don't know. He's praised Ryan Wingo a ton. He's praised Bond at times a ton. He's talked about Matthew Golden. He's talked about these dudes, right, individually. But doesn't it seem to you as a whole, he continues to maybe say, I feel like we've kind of need more out of these dudes than we saw in the spring?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, does that feel like it's been like an undercurrent? I don't know why it sort of felt like it in this one. I'd be interested to hear you're there at all the interviews. You get to pick up the body language and stuff. Like, what do you think?
He definitely, the confidence that he had in, for instance, Xavier, Jordan Whittington, and then Adonai Mitchell. I don't think that exudes right now. I mean, I think, Alex, it goes back to, one of his big concerns after the season was like, I just don't have enough receivers, right? I don't have enough guys in here, and he felt like
after this last season,
after this past season, and that's why he looked and he said, "Man, I got guys who don't have a lot of experience here," so that's why he went to the portal and tried to bring in, a bunch of 3 different guys that he felt like, okay, maybe can help him with the Bolden, Golden, and Bond, but one of those guys isn't here yet, and that guy is going to be more of a returner. Bond, kind of a, shaky spring game, shaky start, finishes a little bit better, which we're praising like a Ryan Wingo. Probably the other guys in the room. I don't want to say anything about Jahdae because I don't want him to tweet at us or tweet at me or anything like that. But you would want him to feel like, hey, you want to walk away saying like, these guys are studs, and it seems like there's a continuity thing. And I don't know how much of that is Quinn needing to work with these guys a lot during the summer to make sure like they're on the same page or not. But I think he was probably really spoiled over the past couple of years. And
that's what Darwin Lemon is saying in chat. That's what could get Quinn with his receivers. And I mean, that's a good point.
Yeah,
it's a good point. It's like you're saying you feel like you need more continuity. It's like, well, how do you develop continuity between now and fall camp? Well, it's actually a pretty obvious thing that he's saying.
Correct.
You need to work with these guys.
Yeah, all the time. That's what needs to be happening. Because if not, then I can totally see again. He was spoiled last year to a certain degree, Alex. And I say spoiled, it's earned, right? They helped develop these guys. So I'm not saying they just walked into some miracle, right? They developed those guys into being who they are. But when you have to, when you know what you can get and what you had, and now you're starting over, like you lose a first rounder or second rounder, and Jordan Whittington, what was it, a 5th rounder or sixth rounder, right?
6 to the Rams. Yep.
6th round, so you lose 3 guys who are drafted. Yeah,
I think it was it 6th. It was
pretty sure it was 6. I think it was
all that stuff happened like a whirlwind. With
Rodolfo knows.
Yeah.
He cried. He cried at that moment. So I would agree. Yeah, I can see that, Alex.
One other thing, I made a couple notes because, like I said, I was kind of laying in bed watching this thing, and I knew I was going to forget stuff once I went to sleep. Well, I'd written down that it felt like it was more of a discussion between Pate and Sark about it wasn't something where he's like, hey, of course, yes, got the quarterbacks, right? What's it like to have the depth of Arch Manning, all this rest of this stuff. So you're going to get to talk about Quinn, to talk about Arch, to talk about replacing guys like Sweat and Murphy, all that, but not much specific digging in about, particular key players on the 2024 team outside of that, right? Outside of saying like, well, this group is good. This is good. The one that he mentioned that I noticed that he talked about and said specifically was, being asked about depth and what it was like. Pate was saying that he was here like spring of 2021, I think, and Sark couldn't put together a complete depth chart. He only had like eight scholarship offensive linemen, all this stuff like that. He was just asking what does it feel like being different now? And Sark was said it's not exactly just the depth. It's the versatility and the way these guys can play in numerous positions. Take Jahdae Barron for example. He plays nickel, but Jahdae Barron might be playing corner. He might be playing safety. All this stuff, So I thought that was interesting. For one, the whole thing about safety, I don't understand why that would be the case. As I went and looked at it this morning, I start to think to myself, well, if you look at like you take you take some injuries to some of these older guys like Makuba or Taff or something like that. Next thing you know, you're talented at safety and you're young, but you're thin and you're young. You know what I mean? So I could see that happening in that kind of situation. But it's leading me more and more to think that now with Brooks gone, it's always been something that we've talked about. Could Jahdae Barron move outside because they feel so comfortable with Jalen Gilbo in the slot? And is that your best way to get him? Or now that you're bringing Javion Cole, who looks like he's a player, whether that keeps Jahdae Barron in the slot. Do you find it at all interesting that he continues to bring up Barron and his versatility is another thing that's a real thing he loves to talk about too.
That's all off season.
Yeah.
That is all off season. The thing he's talked about, like I feel like that's come up unsolicited in many interviews. You and I have talked about it before on a few different occasions, and I've asked your opinion about it. So the Barron thing, the versatility thing, when he keeps saying, Al, is like, hey, I want to put my 5 best guys on the field, seemingly regardless of position. It doesn't seem like he's going to be tied to that. Again, you have the numbers to show that and things like that, but that seems to be what his whole thing is. I'm just not going to say to myself, this is my first string, cornerback, he's just like 5 best guys. You guys go out there and we'll move you around as need be.
Do you think it's almost a 50-50 that Barron plays a lot more outside corner than we think this next year?
Yeah.
I think it's almost
the way he's talking him up.
Yeah.
The way he's talking him up. Yeah. He loves him. Like he loves him. I feel like he thinks that's his, the Swiss Army knife? I don't even know if they still sell those things, but.
Oh, they do, man. My son takes his everywhere except school. I was
like, oh, snap.
Okay. And then just a couple other things before I launch into the question here that's going to get us into our set of rankings. Just a couple random things. He said that once he gets into fall camp, because the discussion was, it's like, you've always, you've been here 3 years and it's not like the longest time, but it's enough time for you to fall into understanding. And like, you think about, this week I'm going to face Matt Campbell, or this week I'm going to face Gundy, or this week you start having these associations with these different programs, the way they like to attack you, what they do, all that. And now you're moving to a new conference, and it's all new. And it's, and Sark, do you know what Sark said about that? He said, and it's not just the teams on the schedule this year, because for us to get to where we need to go, we're gonna have to play in a game where we're having to practice. We're like in fall, we're gonna put an install against Ole Miss and against LSU and against Tennessee. And he's like, because these are teams where we're gonna have to play them presumably in the championship is what he's saying, or through the first part of December as you're trying to navigate your way through the college football playoff. To me, I just thought that was interesting. It's just crazy how much forward you have to think as a football coach. Like, to me, I would be razor focused on the schedule, and I'd say cross them bridges whenever you get to them. Like we'll have a whole week to get ready for this stuff. He's already like, is that just what you got? Like, do you not feel at all like that's a little bit like overthinking it? But I mean,
well, it's funny, Alex. I feel like if you ask any coach about like the big picture, they would tell you like, we're just focused on the season opener versus Colorado State, right? Right? If you ask any coach about, hey, what about such and such, and like, we're just focusing on week 1, right? That's typically it. So if they hear him saying like, yeah, we're actually thinking like of that far ahead and thinking about installs for this programs or those programs. Is interesting. What's interesting, actually, when you say that, Alex, what comes to mind is when it was recently, we was talking to Sark, and he started talking about someone that asked him about like play calling, and why does he still like to play call? I think it was Sam Kahn from The Athletic had asked him that when we were in Houston at the Touchdown Club. Shout out to Sam. And one of the things he talked about, Alex, is in answer is it's like he likes almost like the tactical warfare of going up against coaches. Like, I think he enjoys trying to outsmart them, outthink them, all those kind of things. And so he said that's just something that he just doesn't want to see himself giving up, right? So that makes sense. And so it is interesting though when you say that, because a lot of coaches have tendencies. This game, like a lot of coaches, I'm sure getting to learn what Gundy's tendencies may be, or to your point, Campbell's tendencies might be. Like, we all know, like if you're in the Big 12, it's like if it's 4th and short, probably Sark's going to go for it, right? So you're going into that week preparing against Sark, saying, we got to really shore up, our short downs, situations, and this is what they do. now it's going to be different, not only for people facing Sark, but on the flip side of him going against guys that he's got to learn what all their tendencies are. Like, he may know what Venables may do, but what does everybody else do? So yeah, I find the tactical portion of that fascinating, on how do you figure out what every single person is going to do and how they're going to attack you and what they think your weaknesses are, and can you really have those in-game adjustments, which is going to be the most important.
Can you believe this one thing? And then after that, we'll get into the main topic. But he was talking about what an exciting year it's going to be in the SEC and all this stuff, and how cool for the fans in Austin and all this. And he reminded me that there's OU week, right? There's OU, and then you come back home to Austin directly after that, and you face Georgia at home. And it's the weekend of the F1 races in Austin.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He's like, it's a wild couple weeks around here, like for all that stuff.
First of all, you want to come up, you better rent your house out for that week, man, for that Airbnb. Right. You can probably get a good $2,000 for or so for the week.
Some of that sweet Euro trash cash.
Because people talked about that a few months ago, and Georgia fans were trying to look into stuff. And I think it was Chris Delcani was asked about that, and he said, I think his response was, "There's plenty of nice hotels in Round Rock." That's what he said. So, that's where it's going to be. Round Rock, Hutto, out there, like San Marcos. People are going to have to make some adjustments.
Yeah, man. Well, look, we're gonna talk about the remaining needs in the portal, but first, let's talk about your need to eat real meat sourced right from Mason, Texas. Look, I'm leaving right after this. I'm going out. I'm going out to my hunting lease. I'm driving right by MTX Beef right there in Mason, Texas. I'm driving by the patch of dirt that I know all the beef that I eat comes from. Texas Beef Traders. TexasBeefTraders.com is where you can go online to look at their excellent inventory. And as you're seeing beef prices go up across the board for the beef that you get in your grocery store, that probably doesn't come from local. It certainly is not local. It's probably not American. Probably shot up with all kinds of stuff that you don't even know about, mRNA vaccines, vaccinations, inoculations, all kinds of cross-herd breeding. You can get your beef straight from Mason, Texas, straight from the ranch. It tastes so good. And listen, it's starting to be where this premium product is actually cheaper. The strips there are cheaper than the grocery store. It's amazing. It tastes amazing. Texas Beef Traders. TexasBeefTraders.com is where you can go in there. See Darren, see Shay. They'll give you a beer. They'll pour you a glass of wine. They'll pull you out of charcuterie board. They want to show you the hospitality that they have there at Texas Beef Traders. And if you can't make it into Lakeway, that's fine. They understand. You could still take advantage of a 10% discount by using the Orange Bloods promo code, or just tell Darren or Shay that you heard about them from Alex and Anwar. They're going to hook you up, 10% discount. You're already getting great prices. And if you can't get there, they'll just bring it to you. Texas Beef Traders, TexasBeefTraders.com. Scan the QR code. Give them a call whenever you can. Go get your meat where I get my meat. Texas Beef Traders.
Hey, Alex, you know what would help? What are their hours? Can you tell everybody what their hours are? Can you look that up?
Yeah, they do. Well, they're not open on Mondays and Tuesdays.
Okay.
And they're open on Thursday. They're open Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and they close at 6.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah, just for those, because I was like, well, okay, well, what are their hours if I just want to show up there today, that sometime this weekend or this and that? I want to.
If you show up this weekend, Darren will hook it up, brother. Darren will hook you up. I would go do it, man, for sure. For sure.
All right. Well, all right. After you do that, go buy a house. Why not? Just keep driving. Just like, you know what? I got my meat. Get yourself, pack a cooler. And so you make sure it gets there. But regardless, y'all, I'm just joking. Eric Sells Homes, DFW, is a man with the master plan. Our dude, El Presidente, he will not take advantage of you. Too many people out there taking advantage of you. I say most realtors really kind of sometimes a step above leasing agents. Like I don't have a lot of confidence in them, but I do have confidence in Eric Sells Homes, DFW. That's the QR code. Make sure you checking them out. Buying, leasing, whatever it is. Graduation's coming up. My son is graduating from elementary school in a couple of weeks. I'm ready. If I can downsize today, I would. But nonetheless, I cannot. Eric Sells Homes, DFW. Make sure you check him out. Come on back in here, Alex.
All right. So here's the part of the Sark interview and again, thanks to Texas Beef Traders, thanks to Eric Sells Homes, DFW, Mr. El Presidente. Thanks to everybody in the chat for being here. Almost 400 of you guys. If you could please remember to like the show, subscribe to the channel. We'd certainly appreciate it. Anwar and I have about 15 minutes here before both of us gotta get out. So we're gonna blast through this, but we can't tell you how much we appreciate you being here with us on a Friday, a big Mother's Day weekend Friday.
Mother's Day.
What
do you do for Mother's Day, by the way? What are you guys doing?
I'm going out hunting and leaving her at home with the kids.
Father's Day weekend, Alex.
I'll be back.
Father's Day.
Spend special time with the kids. I'll be back. I'm gonna try and come back Saturday night, or I'll be back at least in time for church Sunday, and then Sunday we'll have we'll do the Mother's Day stuff. I can't say it because she sometimes watches the show.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, all right. So you do have plans outside of a dental exam. Okay, go ahead.
You guys will never let me live that down.
Never.
That's the gift. That's the gift of that's the gift of dental hygiene and health.
I can't imagine what water pick she's getting as a gift this year, Alex.
Okay.
Oh, she can't wait. She's like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait.
Okay. Whenever Sark talked about depth, he said, when you look at our depth chart right now, and this is what makes our task hard right now, Anwar. This is hard because there's 2 extra spots left as far as scholarships. And what Sark said is true. If you look at the depth that Texas has now, what Texas has tried to do, and they've done it now that I look at the depth chart, is to make sure that the depth at each position is sort of representative of for the number of players that have to be on the football field for that position. It's like the depth across the board is basically the same right now for everybody, right? It isn't like there's one where was way too much and one where they're way too thin. It's right now. It's like the depth across the board is pretty balanced. And so I think when you look at this stuff and you're looking at ways where you could allocate those extra scholarships, I'd be interested to hear from you. Do you just want to get started with our little countdown here?
Yeah,
about where we would do it. Okay. So are we go at 5 where the least needed and to number 1 the most needed? Yeah,
and then you want to do you want to do my 5, you do 5, then we do 4, 3, 2, like back and forth.
How about 5, 5, 4, 4, 3, 3?
Got it.
Okay. So do you want to go first or do you want me?
Yeah, I'm gonna go first. And here, can I do my setup for?
Because it's gonna need you're gonna need to. yeah. Because it's right.
So my setup for what I'm thinking, Alex, when we started talking about this thing, is not. I don't view it my 5 as this is what Sark needs in maybe the top 2, right? Except for one position. I view it more as like depth. And I'm also thinking like futuristically. So more so than 2024.
Those are things you have to take into consideration because, like I said, the depth is. You can paint up a tale that they're good to go right now for 2024. I mean, I think there's places you can improve, and for me that'll come in only with my last 2. But I agree with you that some of this stuff you got to look to the future.
So for me at the number 5 position, and again we're just I'm like, okay, if you have to have something, I would go from a linebacker position. Anybody that's versatile there. I would feel like you bought in Kendrick Blackshire for a reason. That obviously didn't work out for whatever reasons, and so but you did bring him in thinking like you would have something else in that room to help you out. With him gone, if there was someone available in the portal, I've kind of looked through the list. And again, I'm not looking at a guy that could compete for a starting position, but just someone to get into the mix of some of these young guys. Because right now, what are we talking about? Like Ant Hills and David Bender, more Blackwell, like those kind of guys. So someone behind them, Alex, is what I'm thinking. So for me, number 5 would be any kind of linebacker position.
Okay. Linebackers are on my list, but I think they're great at safety. I think Derek Williams is awesome. I like Makuba. I like Taft. I think that Jelani McDonald is going to be sick. I think Xavier Filsaime is eventually going to be sick. But I was talking about earlier, if Makuba and or Taff, if either of them were going to go down, next thing you know, you have Jelani McDonald, who's never started a game, and then 2 true freshmen who would have to be competing for snaps opposite Derek Williams at a position where they like to usually run 3 or 4 dudes. So basically, if Makuba and or Taff were going to go down, then even if one of them happened to go down, right, you would have Derek Williams at the other spot. But if they're going to rotate in, they will have to be rotating in at least one dude that hasn't ever started a game, and possibly 2 that have only been here. So I think that they're fine. I'm not saying go out and break the bank to go find a safety, right? But it's like, there are 2 extra scholarship spots. I think that one could be allocated there, especially if looking toward the future.
Well, Alice, that kind of leads into what my number 4 is, because my number 4 was safety there. So that's where I was kind of leading into that. Now, I'm not going to parrot everything you said, but like to your point, feel good about the guys who are the starters. And then I just wonder, okay, if you have to bring in someone just in case, and there's a couple of good guys that I kind of looked up, that have had some little bit of playing time. Texas A&M has a safety by the name of Jacoby Matthews, who's kind of supposed to enter the portal. Penn State has got a good guy that by the name of King Mack that played a lot on special teams, but he's a freshman. But just something like that where you have a guy could maybe potentially develop him, but just in case the bullets start flying, and you just because Alex, we know practice and games, it's 2 different things. And we've heard throughout the years, there's always been guys who were great in practice. I think the kid who's the kid that the former quarterback here that competed against Casey Thompson, what's his name?
Cam Rising?
No. The one that transferred to Purdue.
Hudson Card?
Yeah, Hudson Card. All we ever heard about was how great he was in practice, right? Oh my God, this guy looks like
Aaron Rodgers, whatever.
Yes, all that stuff. But when the bullets start flying, it was kind of a totally different thing. So that's why I would say safety for me.
My next one up was, and people are going to think this is weird, but it's interior offensive line. And the only I think Texas looks good at tackle for the foreseeable future moving forward, with Trevor Gooseby on one side, who's going to be really good once he continues his development, and Brandon Baker over on the other side, because I don't think, we know I'm not breaking news that Kelvin Banks isn't long for this program, but Cody just put out his too early 2025 mock draft up early this morning on Roster Watch, and I went in and posted it. I noticed he has Kelvin Banks going 4th overall next year, so he's as good as gone, barring unforeseen disasters. And then I do think that Cam Williams has a chance to maybe be gone if he plays as well this year as he's capable of playing. I think that he could be like a Jonathan Brooks of offensive lineman, a dude that just comes in and just he's just so good that he really needs to play 1 year, and he's ready for the NFL. And I also think that DJ Campbell has had 1 year wherever he was actually really good. One more year where he steps up from last year, and he'll be gone. And we've just seen the guys behind them. We know that Hayden Connor is going to be gone, but Hayden Connor this year was needing to be pushed by Neto Yamusalo. He was getting pushed by the Cole Hudsons of the world, stuff like that. The only problem was Neto hasn't taken a real step, which is a problem in itself, right? And so as not only insurance for guys like NATO if they continue to take a long time, but also considering the fact that the guys who you have available to you at the interior, you have Daniel Cruz who comes in. He looks like he's pretty good. Nate Kibble will be coming in, but he's one of these guys who looked like he reminded me. He's a 2024 guy, but reminds me of some of these 2023 guys that are going to take a long time to develop. And the 2023 guys who are going to take a long time to develop, well, they're taking a long time to develop. And I don't know what's going to happen with Connor Stroh. Peyton Kirkland's already gone. So I think interior offensive line, it's clearly, I think O-line is going to be like a feather in the team's cap this year, I guess you could call it. So you call it macaroni or something? I forget what that whole thing is. The Yankee Doodle song.
Yeah.
But the moving forward, I feel like it's going to be an issue. I mean, Jake Majors is going to be going, all kinds of stuff. So I'm going to say interior offensive line for my number 4.
The number 4. Hey, real quick, Alex, you don't have to go long on that. How do you feel about backup center?
I think it'll be, I mean, I think it will be, I don't think they'll throw Connor Robertson back out there if Majors gets hurt. I think they'll move one of those other guys to left guard and then move Hayden Connor into center.
Okay.
And they'll have Nato or Cole Hudson play left guard.
For my number 3, Alex, again, I think now, but this is probably a luxury pick for me. So this is one that, like, if you shouted me down, I'm not going to say like, okay, I won't stand on a table for this. But when I do look at that tight end position, I know I can feel good maybe about a Gunnar Helm, and I'm just not quite sure after that. Like, Sark is
not sold on Nye Black at all.
I'm okay.
We haven't seen too much of him yet.
I haven't seen anything from him right now that makes me be sold at this moment. I hear more. We've heard more about Juan Davis than we really have anything as far as Nye Black is concerned. We got the younger guys who are behind you with Spencer Shannon, Will Randall. We heard a lot of good things about Jordan Washington in the spring as well. Again,
and an impressive spring game. A couple of real nice catches. He did get a little bit banged up, but he ended up coming back in the game.
Yeah, so that's why I say, again, luxury pick. I won't stand on the table, and I won't shout anyone down that would shout me down. But that's probably, if you had something, you just say, I don't mind throwing another body in the room. Tight end wouldn't be an issue for me.
My third one was your first one, and it's linebacker, and it's for the same reasons that you mentioned. It's the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Just depth, guys getting kind of old. And a couple guys get hurt. Next thing you know, if you're looking to get to like, your fourth or your fifth guy, you could be looking at a player like Ty Anthony Smith, or something like. I think that they could bring in some extra veteran depth there.
Number 2 for me, Alex, can I just go back to this, and I'm going to explain you why. It's going to be that defensive line, defensive tackle position.
Yeah.
Here's my issue, Alex.
It's also mine. It's also my number 2. So
okay, perfect. My number 2 is look at all the seniors that they have, Alex. Like when this year is gone, look what you have left. You've got Jahdae Bledsoe, Aaron Bryant, Sadir Mitchell. That's what's left, Alex. So for me, if you can bring in a guy like that, like they were talking to that Oregon kid, if you can bring in someone like that who can develop for the future, great. Because right now, you're falling off a cliff, Alex, after this season.
You and I are on the exact same page. That's exactly what I was going to say. And right down to the fact, I think that they should still be kicking around Johnny Bowens. I know Ketch told me that that's off, and you have to. It's a bigger commitment than I'm saying it is, even though I'm saying it's low risk. You don't got to throw a ton of NIL money on him. Bring him back to Texas. He had good high school tape. He's put on a good 20 pounds since high school. He was actually more productive on a minuscule sample last year than Sadir Mitchell, who you're going to have on the roster, who you're hoping is going to develop. You offered this kid last year. I think, 4 more years of eligibility. What Ketch says is the 4 years of eligibility is what he doesn't like, because what if the kid's no good? You're kind of stuck with him. To me, it's one extra chip on the old roulette table that, if Aaron Bryant or Sadir Mitchell doesn't hit, maybe you can bring in a guy like Bowens who could. But that's definitely where I am. Let's get to the final one after we get to this super chat here. Jay Lee says, Lole was committed to OU, but still able to sign elsewhere. How do we know who is committed to another school, but still technically available? Well, it's not something that I have intimate knowledge of with all these players, but you can bet that the different communications going on in the back channel. I mean, these communications led to knowledge of the situation with a guy like Lole. Word kind of gets out on where I don't know if you have any. And thank you so much, Jay Lee, for the super chat. But there certainly are communication channels that exist where people can get this kind of information about these players, and that's the reason why we're talking about the fact that these things can continue to occur. Not every prospect goes into the transfer portal and makes a social media post about it, or goes and contacts the dude from Hayes Fawcett to make him an edit. It's just, that isn't how it always goes.
Fascinating how he's cornered the market, but we'll talk about that another day.
Yeah.
The thing is, Jay Lee, though, for instance, like a lot of guys that those, high school kids, they sign a letter of intent, right? A lot of these guys, for instance, like Texas hasn't announced some of these guys being official because they're finishing up classwork, schoolwork, this and that. Then they have to transfer into the school and then it becomes official. But so some of these guys have verbally committed, but really until they're enrolled in the school, it's really kind of not official at that moment. So it's
that's
really
a good point.
It's not over at this moment. Like signing day is signing, but these for the transfers is just a little bit different. Number one for me, Alex. And
hold on, are we gonna have the same? Are we gonna have different number ones? I think we might have the same one.
There's no way we're having different number ones.
Okay, I don't know. Mine's kind of weird.
Mine's is the punter.
Okay, so we have the same number one. Okay,
okay,
like, all right, okay.
You got who the hell is punting the damn ball, Alex?
Well, somebody asked us the other day. I'm like, what do you mean who's punting the ball? It's number 49. I'm like, wait, who the hell's 49? We have to go look at the roster and see. You know, it was just like, who's that? I'd forgotten that they do have the kid, the Michael Kern, the true freshman coming in. But man, it's you know, you don't want to think about being in those fourth downs. You don't want to be in them too often, right? But you're going to find yourself in those spots. I mean, you got to kick the ball away. I'm not much of a punter analyst. I can't go break down the film. I know you need one.
If he's from Australia, he's probably good, right? Is that our generalizations right now? Like,
dude, my deal is my deal is this. That's the exact thing. You don't need to worry about transfer portal stuff or timelines or anything like this to go get a punter. You call down to Pro Kick Australia. You know what I'm saying? You're like, who do you got? They boomerang that dude right up, and you're good to go, man. As long as he has a scholarship.
Last thing I'll say on that, Alice, is that you never know how much you need a punter until you don't have one, and that's just the rule of thumb. You don't appreciate it, and then when all of a sudden your punt goes 20 yards or something like that, and you don't have the results, and all of a sudden you're like, oh damn, I need one. So all right, Alex, let's get out of here because I gotta get on the road. You got some things to do. Happy Mother's Day weekend to all the mothers who are out there. I know Catherine said something about having a daughter that's graduating soon, but all the mothers out there, we absolutely appreciate you. Fellas, make sure you celebrate the mothers in your life, celebrate the mothers that you know. So, and you know, make sure you send out a bunch of text messages, love, flowers, cards, candies, all those kind of things. But happy Mother's Day to all the mothers. Remember, I always say live each day like it was your last, because one day it will be. Alex?
All right, man. Now, we need you guys to have a good weekend, a fun weekend. We need you to call your mom if she's still around. We need you to call the moms around you that are all around. Let them know you love them. Let them know you appreciate them. Go do something awesome this weekend, man. Go do something big. We will be back on Monday for Anwar. I'm Alex.